Hello and welcome, my dear scale modelers, to my small hobby YouTube channel. My name is Tomo and today I'm going to be showing you the build video of a SIAI Marchetti in 1/72nd scale from Special Hobby. This is my very first Special Hobby model kit and I'm pretty excited to get started. Now the reason that I've chosen this particular aircraft is because of the very interesting paint schemes that were listed on the back, and I've chosen to go for the very bright yellow one. In the box you get 2 sprues of body parts for the aircraft, and although the body parts for the aircraft are okay, they would need some love and attention from the manufacturer in the future. I'm mainly referring to flash and fit issues. The canopy is nice, large and clear, and you also get 2 small photo etch parts for the wings. The decal sheet of paper is also quite extensive for such a small aircraft, and you have lots and lots of small decals to place on it, which can be daunting. But overall, it's a very good print quality and I'm very happy with it. The manual is also very short and to the point, which I like to see, with nice and clear graphics, and it's easy to understand and read. At the very back, you get the paint schemes and the markings. As I started this project, I thought to myself that this might actually be a very good beginner model because of the few parts and relatively easy to understand manual. But as I progressed throughout the build, I quickly realized that that wasn't so, and it started with the cockpit. Now this was just a minor annoyance and I didn't really thought about it much. I just quickly repaired it by drilling out the little hole and shortening the stub on the edge of the pedals. After that, I quickly proceeded and assembled all the other parts. Now I could say at this point that the assembly went smoothly, but I would be lying to you. Now, it's not that it was difficult to assemble and glue, it's just that the parts were manufactured very poorly, and so you have offset parts that don't quite fit very well, and you need to do a lot of sanding and cutting and shaping in order to get them right. In the end, I just chose the tactic, used a lot of cement to melt the parts so that they would just fuse together and somehow form a cohesive structure. Now this tactic works somewhat well, but it has mixed results and I wouldn't really recommend it as your go-to solution for every single build, especially because melted plastic and plastic parts are very difficult to work with, so patience is your best friend here. The other thing that I would like to mention is that the model doesn't have lots of guide pins. The guide pins are usually there to guide a part into a certain place, which sometimes has negative effects if the model is manufactured poorly, but in this case there are really not that many of them, and in the case of these seats, I really wish they would be there. The biggest kicker for this aircraft is the fact that the cockpit is just too big for the fuselage, and you'll see what I'm talking about in just a moment. Now, the other major hurdle that you need to overcome is the aircraft is tail heavy, so you do need to put some sort of weight in the nose, otherwise it's gonna keep tipping over, and that is what's happening in my instance because there are no indications in the manual that you need to actually do this, and it's quite annoying. When it comes to the fuselage, it's very important to make a decision on which paint scheme you're gonna go for because that determines which panels you'll need to fill in with putty to make it work. And because I'm going for the bright yellow paint scheme, these are the panels that I need to fill in with putty. And that's just a pretty straightforward business. You just mask off the area, fill it with putty, wait until it dries, and then sand it off smoothly. And that's not the only modification you need to do on this aircraft. Here's another thing that you need to remove with snippers. So I did. The box housing for the front landing gear is also quite tricky to assemble, but it's doable. Another small modification that you need to do is to drill out the hole for the propeller, which is again easy peasy. Before I actually attempt to put the cockpit inside the fuselage, I opted to paint it in the, I think, appropriate colors per the manual's instructions. So that's what I did. And I picked out some of the details with black. I also had a picture of the cockpit instrument panel on the computer screen as I was painting to try to replicate it as much as possible. And of course I attached the decals, which were the instrument clusters in the center. Now, there are two different instrument panels in the kit, so you do need to choose the appropriate one for your version, although in my opinion they look very similar, but only the die-hard fans of this aircraft will actually spot the differences. So this is the instrument panel in the kit, and this is how it looks in the real aircraft. Quite a difference. Now at this point I was pretty happy with the overall progress of the build. Everything was going smoothly and quickly, and I was just happy as a bun in the oven. Now that will all begin to change quite dramatically in the next few seconds. After I merged the two fuselage halves together, I did the usual. I sanded, I puttied, I smoothed, and just made it look pretty. At this point in time, my heart started to sink deep into the abyss when I realized that the cockpit sat too low in the fuselage, which prevented the bottom section of the wing to fit snugly to the body, which meant this monstrosity. A butchery job if I ever done one, but well, that's what I needed to do. Unfortunately, I made a hole through the cockpit floor, which I needed to fix. Unfortunately, even my butchery job didn't quite do it, so I was still left with a huge gap on either side of the fuselage, which I needed to somehow fix. Here I'm attempting to fix the floor. A simple styrene sheet that was cut into shape and placed down with some cement. I didn't paint it, I just left it white. Honestly, this experience left a bittersweet taste in my mouth, and I will be hard-pressed to recommend this model to a beginner or to anybody, actually. It's horrible. Don't do it, unless you really want a challenge. I maybe thought that I made a mistake somehow by lowering the cockpit too far down, but I checked and double-checked, and I came to the conclusion that this was not a user error but a manufacturer error. So, unfortunately, that's just the way it is currently with this version of the aircraft, and I hope that Special Hobby retools the system and makes it better. And if you're wondering why I didn't sand down the wing section, so the interior portion, that's because the wheel housing is part of the wing and the plastic was really thin. And if I were to sand down, I would probably make a hole through that. and that would be even worse. So this was the only solution at that particular moment in time that made sense, so I went for it. So I painted the dash and the back portion of the aircraft area with Tamiya X18. Now I'm just using the same paint, using a brush and tidying up the edges so that they will be more uniform with the rest of the cockpit. Of course, at this point in time I remembered, oh gosh, seat belts. So there they are, seat belts inside the cockpit. I just love the canopy on this model. That is one of the things that drew me to this aircraft, and it was nice and easy to paint by hand using the acrylic brush, just painting the edges as neatly as possible and then tidy up the edges using a toothpick method. Surprisingly, the canopy fits very nicely to the fuselage without any real modification. You just need to lightly press it down and attach it with glue, just like I did here. Yes, I know I'm using cement, which is not ideal, but if you use it correctly and very gingerly, it will work, I promise you. To help me paint the canopy, I also bought myself some masks, but before I go for painting, I need to attach this brass pipe that you don't get in the kit, but you need to put it there because it says so in the instructions, so I did. Oh yeah, I also attached these two photo etch parts on the wings. Pretty easy job, but again, there are really no guidelines to where to attach them, so I just kind of eyeballed it and used some super glue. This is another part that you don't get inside the kit, and you need to scratch build it from a piece of styrene, which again, it's not really for a beginner. I believe so. But it's not that big of a deal. You just cut the antenna, put some cement on top, and then just gingerly place it onto the fuselage. It's a little awkward and you will probably knock it off just like I did, but it will stick in the end. Just give it some time to properly adhere. Here I'm just checking if the height is to the specs. Like I've said, I've also bought myself some masks for the canopy because the canopy represents a substantial feature on this aircraft and I didn't want to rely on my steady hands to cut the shape of the canopy. I also used for the first time this liquid mask from DMS, and I'm pretty darn excited about it. Previously I've been using Vallejo's one and the one from Microscale Industries, but they seem to be a little bit on the iffy side when applying. This one just flows easily, applies easily. The only real annoyance that I have with it is that it's white. I wish it would be black or blue or red, any color but white, because when this mask sets it becomes semi-transparent and it's sometimes hard to see if you have properly covered an area, and it kind of bugs you a little bit. Maybe it's just me, I don't know. What about you guys? Have you used this mask before? And what are your thoughts on it? Leave a comment down below, let me know. After priming the model, it was finally time to paint this aircraft in the appropriate colors that I've chosen. For the entire body, I chose RLM 4 yellow, and then just proceeded to mask off the certain areas of the wings and fuselage to paint them in red. And for that I used glossy X7 from Tamiya. I must say that the real color range from AK Interactive and Tamiya's X and XF series paints are basically the same paints, or very similar to one another. You can mix them together, you can thin them with the same thinner, and they apply equally one or the other. And so the real color range is quickly becoming my favorite range of paints besides Tamiya. And this is how the aircraft looks once painted. Now it's time to apply the decals. The decals are really vast, there's lots of them, and you'll need to be extra patient to put them on because some of them are really tiny, so bear with me on this one. Of course, this wouldn't be a My Small Hobby video if I hadn't forgotten something. I have forgotten to paint the hump on the back, so I did this after the fact, which wasn't ideal. I also forgot to paint the nose, which wasn't ideal, but I still did it. Yeah. And we're quickly coming to the last parts of this video, which are just the landing gears and the landing gear wheels, which I've done in the usual, painting them with rubber gray and then adding some details on the center of the wheels with hand painting. Then I attached them to the body, and the aircraft was pretty much done at this point. So like always, thank you so very much for watching. If you have been, thank you for liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. And I'll see you soon in the next video. Bye for now and enjoy the rest of the video.